I totally hear what you're saying, and it's something like you say that probably uh, with any luck for you and for me, it's probably something that will get addressed here very soon.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Representative, I just had a couple of questions I
Sure.
just wanted to ask you. Your perspective is interesting. I'm going to grab that from you, just because you are. Well, 1 second. A little squishy here. I think your perspective is interesting because you are a physician, and so I guess as a physician, do you think that this law should stay on the books?
So I wasn't here when the law was put on the book, so I can't speak as to what people were thinking or what the reasoning was. I can tell you that when I did my student training in Florida in the 1990s, I'm not originally from Florida. I moved here from Mississippi. And when I got to Florida, it was with the plan on staying in Florida. Well, I do know that back in the late 1990s, the malpractice situation was at such a crisis point that we were told by our professors, oh, you're going into family practice. Well, you will have to leave the state because by 1999, when you graduate, the premiums for malpractice for a family doctor will be so high, they will be higher than the salary you will be able to commit. You won't be able to afford to practice in Florida. So there obviously was a crisis. I can speak to the fact that my malpractice premiums here in 2023, 2024 are nowhere near catastrophic. My premiums run around $11,000 a year, which does not bankrupt me. Now, again, historically, what were they going towards in the 90s? Obviously, much, much higher than that. So obviously, something had to be done. I'm just not certain, as we discussed, I'm not certain this is the way to achieve the end.
Right, and I guess my point is that has categorizing a certain group of people and keeping them from filing lawsuits, is that the reason why we haven't reached that catastrophic level that you described as being warned when you were in medical school?
Obviously, if I felt that that was the means to the end, obviously I would say so. I don't believe that when you talk about the number of cases, I mean, unmarried 26-year-olds, 27-year-olds, they should be your least likely to suffer or to die. Right? When you think of people who have bad outcomes, you think of people who are unhealthy. You think of people who have probably been around the block or time. You normally don't think of a single male 26-year-old as not leaving the hospital.
And so with that said, why has it been so hard to take this law off the books in Florida?
Well, I think what you run into here in any state capital is you have special interests involved. You have people who see things a certain way. They see the end goal, they see the end result, and they're unwilling to go back and look at policy. I can give you another example. I have a bill on the House floor this morning dealing with parts of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. There were some really good things in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill back in 2018, but there were also two really bad things in there. I'm working to repeal one of those really bad things. But just like we're talking about with malpractice, people don't want you to touch statute. They don't want to hear it. They hear a buzzword and they shut off. And I think that's what's happened in the case of Sabrina.
And so are you saying that the voice of special interest is more important than the average citizen like Sabrina?
I'm saying that when legislation gets passed, it is extremely hard to dial it back. And I think that's what Sabrina's running into. And hopefully by adding my voice to Sabrina's concerns, hopefully we can move the needle forward a little bit. Again, there's always a reluctance. There's always a hesitance to go back and revisit statute. They figure what was good then is still good now. And obviously, after talking to Sabrina, that's not how we want to get there. That's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I don't mean to be sort of aggressive here, but I mean, this has been a more than decade-old fight to repeal what lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have described as injustice, cruel, a glitch, something that clearly needs to be cleaned up. But yet here we are, and it's still on the books, and families, countless families, are being impacted unfairly.
I think, like you say, there's factions on both sides, right? On the one side, you have the trial attorneys who we certainly don't want this to be a windfall. We certainly don't want there to be a glut of frivolous lawsuits. So I think on the
But
one
there's no
hand,
evidence that this is that.
well,
This
now
in
you're
any way
interrupting me. So I
suggests- Okay.
do you want to ask me the questions, or would you like me to ask you the
I
questions?
mean, I'm just saying that
right, so
has sort of already been.
Let's cut that. Let's cut that. We're getting that out.
No,
you're going to let me finish, or we'll throw this out. Start
I
over.
I
Start
respect
over.
that.
No. I was
okay.
making 2 points.
Okay.
Let me make my points now.
I understand.
Who's the physician here?
No, certainly.
Sabrina, you like my help?
No, certainly, and I'm
Tell
not,
her to be respectful.
absolutely.
All right.
By no means is this at all.
Ask the question
Any-
again.
My question was, what was my question?
Well, because you started attacking me. That's why you don't remember the
No,
question.
you had mentioned about the frivolous lawsuit,
Right.
and so
So there
I
are
know that
so there are multiple factions at play with any legislation. On the one hand, I think you have people that are concerned that going back and changing the statute, changing the law in the state of Florida will lead to a glut of frivolous lawsuits by the trial attorneys, and we have to be absolutely certain that that doesn't happen. And then on the other side, you have the physicians who are concerned, as you said, that their malpractice premiums are going to shoot up again. And then, of course, in the middle, you have the patients, you have the people, you have people like Sabrina who wanted no part of this fight, who wanted not to be pulled in one direction or another. They were just seeking justice. They were just seeking what is right and what is proper. And I do think there's a proper balance in between there. But again, I refuse to throw anybody under the bus because they disagree with me. And by the same token, Sabrina and we ought to be able to make a good enough argument where we bring people to our side. And as I was saying to Sabrina, it's going to happen, hopefully sooner rather than later.
appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
We've been hearing that a lot. That
But
it's
yeah,
going to happen.
don't make me attack people. Don't make me, like I said, I'm not the spokesman for why this bill is in
Right,
place. I wouldn't have
right.
voted for it back then. So
Right,
don't,
and well, and a
don't,
lot
don't,
of-
don't put me in that
And a
pickle.
lot of folks here, I'm going to take that mic from you, and a lot of folks that we've spoken to on the lawmaker side have felt the same way, have said that to us, is like, look, we weren't here. And so certainly you weren't here in a position